Wonderful. Nicole, thank you so very much. I'm very honored to have you here. And please, I encourage you, each of you, to dance a little, even if it's around in the kitchen. If you want to explore some options of ballroom dance, I highly recommend it. Or whatever it is that can lift you up and that appeals to you, brings a little joy into your life, please add it back in and have a wonderful day. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, so right now we are watching Heather dance salsa with her instructor, Andy. And this is one of her favorite dances that she started doing when she came in. So basically what Andy did when she came into our studio for the first time was asked her some of her interests and showed her a few of the dances, and she was able to narrow down to a few that she wanted to work on. So right now they're doing just some basic salsa moves. And Andy is one of our full-time teachers. He has been with us, it'll be 4 years in October. He started working at an Arthur Murray in Manchester, New Hampshire, and transferred to Connecticut for a job opportunity with us. And he is one of our best producing instructors as far as lessons, the amount of time that he's in the studio. He's currently our dance director, which means that he's in charge of training the rest of the staff and any new staff on their certifications in dancing, but also setting the dance standard in the studio as far as what we teach and how we teach it to our students. And he also competes professionally in smooth style dancing with his partner Tara, who's also one of our instructors here. So he is been working with us, like I said, for 4 years and does a great job. Students really love his personalization and his personality. And as you can see, Heather is smiling ear to ear, so I think he's doing a good thing with her. So right now they're doing just some open steps, some underarm turns, just keeping the dance moving, which is really important for salsa. And you can see they're having a lot of fun. It's hard not to. And salsa is a very popular Latin dance right now, especially in the greater Danbury area, Norwalk, Stamford, even in Hartford area, New York City. There's a lot of Latin and salsa clubs that people will talk about going to or see people dancing. It can be danced in a frame like they're doing right now, or in a two-hand hold. A lot of opening positions. Get to use some of your hip motion. You can see her skirt is moving all over the place, which is also a lot of fun for the woman as well.
Hello and welcome to Community Forum. I'm Heather Hansen O'Neill, and I am so excited today to bring you something a little bit different. For some of you who have been watching for some time now, you know about my dance background, but if this is the first time you're watching the show, I'll let you know that my first love has been dance since I was just a little girl. I danced professionally for many years before being injured, and I realized after several years of stopping dance because of the injury and how depressing it was, that you still need to incorporate that love, that passion into your life on a regular basis. Now, for me, it's dance. For you, it might be something else. But whatever it is, that thing, that activity, that action, that thought process, the thing that you bring into your life that brings you up, that lifts you, I encourage you to hold on to it as long as you possibly can. But because mine is dance, I'm going to share with you a little bit about the dance world. I found this amazing woman named Nicole Almeida. I'm going to tell you a little bit about her, and then we're going to ask her some questions about how she's changing the lives of people in Danbury and surrounding areas. Nicole Almeida is the director and owner of the Arthur Murray Dance Studio in Danbury. It's in Connecticut. She's the second-generation owner of this studio, which was originally opened by her parents in 1979. Dancing has always been a part of her life, not only growing up in the studio, but dancing tap, jazz, and ballet for 11 years. She feels honored and blessed to be carrying on the legacy her parents worked so hard to build. There's so much that she's done, so many different competitions and instructing and all of that, but we're going to find out more about that in the conversation with her. But I wanted to just read one other line that I love so much. Her passion for changing people's lives through dancing is what fuels her daily efforts to create the best studio atmosphere she possibly can. And I know firsthand because I take lessons here now too. So, welcome, Nicole. I'm so excited to have you here. So, I'd like you to tell just a little bit more about what it was like growing up in the dance world.
It's hard to compare because it's all I knew, but it was really exciting. My parents had a huge studio and a lot of students, and they used to take busloads of people to different competitions in Newport, Rhode Island and Atlantic City. And my sister and I just were always in the studio. We were studio kids, and that's all I knew. I was probably a little bit too old for my age, always being around adults, but it was so cool. And they, they really worked hard, and they had a great following of people. So it was a great childhood to have, that's for sure.
Wow, that's incredible. So now, when did you take over the studio? How old were you?
I was 24 when I took over.
Very cool. Now, did they stay with you for a while and continue it together, or did you just take it over from them?
Well, my parents split up in the late 80s. And my dad moved out to Arizona and still, now to this day, owns a studio in Scottsdale, in Arthur Murray, actually. My mom kept this studio, and she had a partner in 2007, and then I became her partner's partner in 2008. But she still continues to consult me and help me out, and so I don't think she'll ever fully leave the business. It's hard not to. Dancing is a wonderful thing, as we know.
Exactly. I mean, that's exactly what we're talking about. It's so important to hold on to that, right?
Absolutely.
So now you grew up doing a lot of ballet and jazz and tap,
Yes.
And then this is Arthur Murray is predominantly ballroom, obviously. What do you think about the transition of that?
Well, there was a tap, jazz, and ballet studio behind where the studio used to be. So I used to take a lot of tap, jazz, and ballet just to kill the time that my parents were working. What's really different is that it's not partner dancing. So when you're doing tap, jazz, and ballet, you're in a group with other people and you're trying to coordinate all doing the same steps at the same time and having that element of it, whereas with ballroom, you have the whole element of communication and a partnership, and you don't need a partner to dance with us, but we find that I think that that's probably the biggest transition for me was getting used to following and not being in control. Because as you know, when you're dancing in a group, you're in control of your movement, you're in control of all of it. And in this, you're not. It's a 50-50, it's teamwork.
Yeah, I do have to say that because I come from the dance background where I was either a soloist or in a group, and then when I first started lessons, Andy, who is my instructor, and you will meet him soon, he had to remind me periodically to stop trying to lead and to listen. So it's also about communication, which is perfect for what the other part of what I do is communication.
That is true. That is very true. And it's all nonverbal, which I think the majority of the way we communicate is nonverbal, but we don't focus on that a lot. So it really puts you in tune with just feeling what someone's body is telling you as opposed to trying to think about what they're going to do, which is what a lot of people find is the most difficult.
I imagine. And it's interesting because for me, I just have to, as the female, you just have to stop and kind of listen. How do you teach a man who's just learning to lead in dance?
Well, it's a lot of hands-on in the beginning because one of the biggest things that we don't ever want a partner, or a couple I should say, to feel is that they're making a mistake. So we are really hands-on with especially the male in the beginning as the instructors. I would say the first 4 or 5 lessons we're moving through them. So the instructor will literally be holding onto their shoulder and their forearm and moving them around because it's all associated with feeling in the beginning. And if they can't feel what they want to be able to communicate eventually, it's really hard to logically process that and logically teach that to someone. And then a lot of it is helping the couple, or if it's just one person working with a teacher, communicate, I'm feeling this, or I'm not feeling that, or that's a great lead, or, I'm having a hard time keeping up my frame, or whatever it is. So I think it's a learning process for everyone involved, whether it's a couple or just someone coming in with a teacher.
You know what? That's interesting. I wonder, do you have any stories about how incorporating partner dance into a relationship, does it seem to make them come closer together, so foster a bonding and increased communication?
Absolutely. I think that a lot of times when couples, we'll use that example, married couples or even couples that are in a relationship come in, they're finding that there's something that could possibly help reignite some fun or some, just some connection with each other. So we do find that. We find that, when they have to start really just listening to each other's bodies and not focusing so much about the speaking element of it, one person always finds that it's really hard to lose control, which is usually the follower, and we understand that. But then also sometimes, too, the gentleman has a hard time, finding the balance of becoming a strong lead without feeling like he's not doing it right. So yeah, I have found that couples have said that has helped them be a little bit more patient with each other in allowing their partner to communicate with them, even verbally outside of the studio, but especially here. And we have different exercises that we'll do. We'll have them close their eyes and just kind of get used to that feeling of not talking with words. Especially for the women, it's hard because they're moving backwards. And that's a really hard thing to get used to because we don't move backwards on a regular basis. So there's a lot of different elements to it. But yeah, I have found that a lot of couples have said it's helped with the patience and just communicating with each other in a different way.
Now, we've been talking about couples. Now, you have people come in just by themselves to either learn or you have some group classes? How does that dynamic work?
As you know, you do not have to have a partner. You do not have to have a partner. There's so many people that tell me if I had known I didn't need a partner, I would have started a long time ago. We have male and female instructors. So if you do decide that you want to take lessons and you want to come in, when you book the first appointment over the phone or you email, we will let you know that off the bat. So you take your private lessons with 1 or 2 instructors. Some people have more than one, which is great. And then when you come in for a group class, there's a balance of people that come in without a partner and those that do come in with a partner. But we alternate partners in group class, and that's really just to have everyone get the opportunity of learning and practicing their dancing with other people. Studio's got a really cool family atmosphere. Everyone's really nice and open to each other. So I know sometimes it's hard for some people that would think, oh, I don't have a partner, I can't do it, or I don't know if, anyone else is going to dance with me. But it's one of the things that we work really hard to make sure that there's always an opportunity to dance with someone, even if that means you might have to sit out one round and, as we rotate the partners around, you get a chance to do that.
Yeah. You know what I love about this is that, first of all, you use the word ignite, which fits with my fire theme. I didn't even prompt you for that. But also the fact that the family atmosphere is very open and warm, because we're talking about something that, like you said, it could be uncomfortable. And I'm always out there helping people to expand their comfort zones. But just to understand that anything that you want to try, whether it's dance or something else, that probably it's a little less intimidating than you have in your mind, right? And what is that? I saw a quote on your computer screen, and that's what we're talking about right now. What is that?
Fear is a liar.
Yeah, that's right. We make it up.
We sure do. It does not exist. And I think, I can remember so early on when I started dancing, being very fearful myself. And having a lot of students come in really fearful of the experience. I don't know many people that have never wanted to try dancing at one point or another in their life. Whether they grew up watching their parents dance because it was such a big part of culture in the 20s, 30s through the 60s. But I do know that if it's something that doesn't go well the first time or the second time they try it, they'll probably never do it again. And I always say that walking in the door is the hardest part, because you're walking into an atmosphere that you have no idea what it's going to be like and who's going to be greeting you there and how all of that works. So yeah, I think the fear holds us back a lot of times. And then people will say once they're here, oh, if I had known it was going to be this fun or be this easy, I would have done this a long time ago. And I just want to be able to have everyone experience that, because it's such a great aspect to have in your life.
It is. I mean, we have that in common, that we both love dance so much. But I love the confidence building. Now we're talking about fear, so let's look at it from the other aspect. Yes. I remember we had spoken once about a great story that you had, and I'm sure it's probably not the only one, where people come in and then they leave almost a different person, right? Could you tell us a little bit, maybe a story?
Absolutely. There have been so many people throughout my career that I could talk about, but one in particular that's a current student right now. She was not in a happy marriage for about 35 years, I think, and she had always wanted to take dancing, but that time in her life didn't allow her to do that. And when she came in, she dressed pretty frumpy, I guess you could say. She didn't really, at that time care to do her hair, to do her makeup. She had already been divorced for about 10 years. And one of the things that she loved about this was it got her back into the spirit of wanting to be a woman and loving to see people. Like, she would come in and say, oh, everyone is dressed so nice, or everyone has their makeup done, or everyone has their nails done. And over time, as she started to, first of all, see that she could do it, which I think was another aspect of it as well. She could do it. She was remembering it. She was active. She was sweating each time she came in. I slowly started to see what we call the ballroom makeover. It just kind of takes on itself. One day they try wearing maybe, a different outfit than they're used to, or they'll do their hair a little bit different, or she came to me and she said, I love your eyeshadow. Where do I get that? Or do you think that would look good on me? And now she's 40. Now she's been taking lessons for about 15 months. She's 40 pounds lighter. She comes in all dressed up every time. Her sons have even called, because they both live out of state, and talked to me and just thanked me for what they said, giving their mom a second chance at life again. And it's just...
And you had mentioned, too, that it actually extended into other parts of her life, right? Because that confidence that she got here. Yes. Did she mention any of that to you?
She did. So she does own 2 businesses, and she had owned those businesses for about 3 years before she came in. But she had told me that her performance level at work even increased, that her energy of just being able to get more done during the day. She left work and came here feeling like she finally had something to do for herself, and it just fueled her, ignited, I guess you could say, to even try other things in her life. But just, she went on a plane for the first time in 20 years. She hadn't done that. She went to Macy's and bought one of the nicest dresses that she had ever seen, and felt good about putting it on, and allowed herself to have that moment for one of the events that we were having. But yeah, she said it really did, and it has. Her businesses have grown tremendously.
You know what, I really want to point that out, because a lot of times people say things like, I don't have time to add that in. But what happens when you do something like dance or some type of exercise or something in your life that makes you joyful, it increases your energy and you're more productive at work, therefore making your time management so much better that it takes back far more time than the hour that you spend dancing or whatever it is that you do. And I think that is so very important for people who, I talk about, it's just another excuse, right? Because we can come up with excuses all day long, but there's always the other side of it. And so to take that leap, the things that you can get from it, it's extraordinary. Absolutely. Now, we're going to, in a few minutes, we're going to have Andy come and show me a few moves. So we're going to talk a little bit more about him then, but how is it working with some of your instructors?
Well, we try and have a different array of personalities and people in general. With Andy's been here the longest, and I think that one of the things that's great about working with a lot of the instructors that we have here is that they all didn't know how to dance when they first started either. So they're very sensitive to knowing what it's like to, taking your first few steps on the floor when you walk into the studio. But they all, I have to say that we all work really hard. The dance business is constantly evolving and changing. It's like fashion and music. There are fads of things that come and go, and so we all work really hard to work on our own dancing and make sure that we're staying effective as teachers. I think the world has changed a couple times since I've started, and it will continue to do that. So we're flexible in making sure that we're just kind of staying on top of what's relevant at the time. But also really personalizing the experience for everyone and just making sure that we're aware of, especially in our area, where are people working, what are their lives like, and how can we help to make it better?
Yeah, that was one of the things that really was different for me, because coming from a background of dancing in classes where you have a set time that the class is, and if your schedule doesn't fit for that time, then you can't take it. Right. But with private lessons, then there's more flexibility and you can work around it and you have no more excuses. I love that.
Right. I think the time aspect is something that we've all worked really hard in making sure that we can be as flexible as possible, because there's not one person I don't know that has a lot of time. So we have, we're here from 1 to 10, Monday through Friday, and we can do different things with the schedule. Some people need a set appointment each week, and we try and accommodate that. Or their schedule or their travel schedule changes week to week. So there needs to be, as you know, flexibility with that as well. So we have our private lessons that are appointment-based, but then we also have group lessons that we have a schedule for, and we try and offer 2 to 3 groups a day. For that part of it. And a lot of times when people tell me they don't have enough time, I tell them that's the exact reason why they need to do it, because they probably need something for themselves more than ever.
Exactly. Yeah. And so if you had to pick, and we talked about confidence and overcoming fear, what would you say is another aspect, or if you have another story about someone who has transformed, do you have any in mind?
I do. I think the first part of it, I would say, is the stress relief aspect of this. Because when you're dancing, you can't really think about anything but your feet, which is a good thing because it distracts your mind. But I think also, too, I really would say that the exercise part of it ends up being something that not everybody comes in wanting, per se. They don't come in and say, I need to exercise. But it ends up being one of those things that each time you come in, you're sweating, or you start to lose inches in certain places, and you're like, okay, well, this is just another great added benefit of that part of it. I would say the story that I would share is we have a student that's 91 that takes lessons with us, and she started taking lessons in her late 70s with her now late husband. And I can remember when her husband passed away, this is about 4 years ago, maybe about a week after all the arrangements and everything had been done. My mom at the time was still running the studio, and she said, we should call her and see how she's doing, and just tell her to come in for a group class and see, and see how she's doing. And so we did, and a week later she started coming back in for group classes again. And Thelma still drives herself here. She still can remember steps that her and her husband used to do from 15 years ago. And so I think with the exercise part of it, it mentally keeps you strong and keeps you alive in that sense, because you have the physiological piece of having to learn a pattern and recall it, but then you have the physical part of actually doing it, and then emotionally too, it makes you feel really good. So I think that to see a 91-year-old woman drive herself to the studio 3 or 4 nights a week, and she's smart as a whip. she amazes me. I don't know too many 91-year-old people that are doing what she's doing on a regular basis.
I think that is phenomenal. And what you're talking about is so important because it's all aspects of your life, right? And they say that with making sure that your memory is intact and that you're keeping with it is things like puzzles and things. Yeah. Really, dance, it's a part of the puzzle. Like, you really have to think as well as move your body in so many different ways. Yeah. You're right. That's really awesome.
I don't want to quote any studies off the top of my head because have any of them 100% memorized, but you can look up the benefits of ballroom dancing, and they have used examples like you said, crossword puzzles, reading, tennis, swimming, and all across the board, mentally and physically, ballroom dancing is one of the top things that people can do to reduce the risk of dementia and Alzheimer's, because there is a lot of thinking that you have to do. And sometimes with her too, we'll just do exercises on walking and taking longer strides, balance, all the things that she finds as she's getting older can be a little bit more difficult.
I think that's wonderful, and it's so personalized because
Yes.
you're doing something different with her than you would with someone else. I was playing Foursquare with my boys and an 82-year-old gentleman last week that rides his bike 10 to 12 miles every day, and I think that is a really important thing for people to understand. Now, you also mentioned